Hello everybody, Kelly Rice here, but I write under the pen name K.M. Rice. And today I am going to be talking about my writing process, or possibly my lack thereof. Because that's sort of the number one question that writers like to talk or ask each other. I've been asked it so many times, and I always feel awkward replying because my reply inevitably comes with a disclaimer, and I'm going to give you that same disclaimer, which is, just because this works for me does not mean that it will work for you, and do not judge yourself or assess your ability based on that. Everyone has a completely different process, everyone has a different way of telling a story and what they need to do in their own space and in their imagination to get that onto paper or onto a computer, as it were. And never feel like you're doing it wrong. There is no wrong, and there is no right. But you can experiment with different ways if you've never written a book before, or even just a short story, to see how do you work the most productively. And the first thing that I will say is that it is work. And that's the biggest mistake people make, is I always have people saying, hey, I started writing and I was so excited and I wrote for hours, and then it was 3 a.m. and I stopped and I got up the next morning and I just wasn't excited anymore. And I lost my inspiration. And they say, how do you get your inspiration back? I'm going to tell you something depressing. Do you remember being in high school or even college and you got assigned to write an essay, and you put it off and you put it off and you put it off because who likes writing essays? And then finally you're like, okay, I have to do this. I have to find something that I like about this project. And so you would look for the one grain of information that fascinates you, and then you would build your essay on that. At least that's what I did, because you have to find a way to survive in these classes. And in the even the creative writing programs that I was in required a lot of book reading and essay writing, because it was half of a literary program and half creative writing. So I had to write a lot of papers, and I had to implement this tactic of forcing yourself to hunker down, find something that excites you, and conjure, basically, your excitement and inspiration from that little grain into something bigger. And it works, but it is a mental discipline, and it is work. So, as disgusting as it sounds, I'm going to take that metaphor of essay writing and apply it to creative writing. The difference, of course, is that creative writing is often accompanied by a massive spurt of inspiration and excitement and creativity, and sometimes it will wane, and then other times it will surge back and you are up at 3 a.m. or you're in the shower and you're looking for something to write on, or, out in the woods and you're just memorizing lines or things that you want to put into your work. And that's all perfectly normal. But what's also perfectly normal is what, as far as I can tell, what people describe as being writer's block. I don't actually know what writer's block is. Take this with a grain of salt, because I'm going to be a little condescending here, but I don't think it exists. What I believe writer's block is you're writing along, telling your story, and you hit a roadblock. And the problem is that you've made a mistake. You've made a mistake either a sentence ago, paragraphs ago, pages ago. There is something in that piece that you are working on that does not sit well with your imagination. And the issue is that often we're telling stories based on our subconscious. That's why we do come up with the idea in the shower or out on a hike. When we're doing mundane things, when our actual brain is engaged in doing tasks that it knows well and doesn't have to focus on, that's when our mind is relaxed enough for your subconscious and your imagination to splurge forward with the details or ideas or inspiration. What can happen is your, I'll just say, conscious brain can take over your writing in dangerous ways. And I say dangerous, like, it's not actually dangerous. I mean, hopefully you're not going to go kill someone because you are telling a story in a certain way. Could be wrong though. Writers are pretty crazy. But what I mean is there's often a difference between the story that you want to tell and that you feel the need to tell, and the control you feel from stories that you've consumed. I'll let that sink in a minute. Because it's something that no matter how many books or scripts I've written, it still sneaks in. And for me, it really sneaks in with my female characters. Because in our culture, we have such a narrow scope of roles that our female characters are, quote, allowed to fill. That's changing. Wonderfully. It's changing. But these messages still snake into our brains. And I caught myself in my new book series writing about this woman who's a powerhouse, and I got to a scene where she needed to betray someone by hiding something. And the first thought that came into my head was, oh, yeah, she should have had an abortion and never told anyone. And I started writing, or at least formulating a plot based around that, and I thought, no, she wouldn't. This girl's a midwife. She would not have accidentally gotten pregnant. And she wouldn't have had an abortion and not told anyone. Where did this come from? Well, it came from, there's only a certain stories that you are ingrained in you to tell about women. And one of them is always, oh, well, since she's female, pregnancy has to be part of the plot. Not true. I had to nip that in the bud, but first I had to recognize it. I had to recognize that a part of my brain that says, oh, well, this is the pattern of storytelling that you should follow, had started to tell the story without me. And I needed to grab a hold of that, rein it in, and go, okay, no. What am I really trying to do? Who is this character, and what would her situation be? And I feel like that's where people get a lot of writer's block, because they've started to take the story in a traditional direction, maybe not even traditional as in commonplace, but a direction that's safe. When really the story and their imagination and the characters were asking it to go a different direction. And the author or the writer instinctively knows that, so they instinctively put a halt on progress. And it's just a matter of knowing yourself and knowing your writing and being able to say, okay, let me take a step back and let's see this area. I did feel a little weird about this part of the story. What's a different way that this can go down? How can these characters talk differently or have a different outcome or whatnot, and just explore your options. And you'll hit one that, this is it. This is what I was supposed to have been doing. Okay, I've got it now. And then your excitement will come surging back. So that's my take on writer's block. However, I think that people sometimes have some sort of constipation in their imaginations, and at least from what I've seen in movies, it's all these old white guys shuffling around being like, can't write, I have to go fuck a 20-something redhead and then she'll give me my inspiration, or I don't even know. I obviously, I really don't know. So, again, take from this what you will, but there is a certain group of literary writers who I like to refer to as the despondent old white, or apathetic old white men's club, and I have no desire to join it. So anyway, getting back on topic, writing is work, and even when I'm working on books that I love to death, I still have that essay moment of sitting down in the morning, looking over what I did the day before and going, I don't want to do this. I want to go outside, I want to go for a hike, I want to, do anything other than write. Those moments are rare for me, and I'll get to that in a minute, but they do happen, and they happened more often when I was first starting out. And what you have to learn is to acknowledge the fact that you are working. You're working your ass off. It's not all fun. It's not all fueled by this intense burst of imaginative euphoria. You have to roll up your sleeves and really have mental discipline to get the words on page and to get the story going. And what you'll find is that once you are able to do that, the inspiration just comes right back. And you have to have the confidence in yourself. That's the hardest thing to build, is the confidence of knowing that it is okay, it will come back, you can do this, you can write. I can't tell you how many times I've started stories going, fucking idea how this is gonna end. I guess I'll know when I get there. And, you know, 3-4 books later, I started to have to trust myself and go, I have no idea. No idea how I can wrap this up. No idea how I can get to an end or even have an end. But I trust that I will. And I have. I mean, most of my books aren't released yet, so it remains to be seen if they're good ends or not. But we'll find out. So, my writing process. And why I said it's somewhat non-existent. That's because a lot of people draw strength from charting their stories out, down to conversations and details, and they'll map it all out before they write, and that's their guide. And that's awesome. Like, if that works for you, then that's awesome. So that's definitely something you could try. I had to do that for my screenplays a bit, because you have to. And it was really painful. And I can't do it for my books or even short stories, because if I do, I feel like I've already told the story. And then there's no point. The best way that I write, and the only way that I write my books, and scripts actually, is open a white document. A white piece of paper, a blank Word document, and just start writing. Because what I actually do is I entertain myself as I go, because I'm not 100% sure where I'm going. And so I write like a crazy person. And when I say crazy person, I'm not joking. I will wake up whenever I get up, and I can only do this, granted, I can only do this because I don't have kids, I'm not married, you know, I'm living at home with my family who is in part supporting me, and so I have the luxury of not having responsibilities taxing my time when I am doing these spurts of writing, and so I can live this way. Not everyone can, and I don't really recommend it because it's crazy. I wake up and I have to eat breakfast, which enrages me, and I have to brush my teeth, which enrages me. These mundane tasks just set me off, but I try my best to do them. I'm lucky if I eat the rest of the day. But then I just start writing, and I do not stop until I have to, which is usually in the afternoon, late afternoon, because I need to go for a run. Running always really helps me write, because there's something to the rhythm of our language and the rhythm of your body moving and your heartbeat. And again, it's another thing where you relax your mind and you go into kind of a zen state, and ideas will surge forth. And I listen to music when I run, and so I'll have all these sparks, you know, flying in my head, and little fires will start, and I'll start seeing scenes. But also, because the part about writing that I hate the most is sitting. And I'm sitting right now, but when I write books, I flip over a clothes basket and put my laptop on top so I can stand and write, because that just helps my sanity. But running also helps my sanity, because we're still animals and we need physical activity. We need to be moving in our lives to maintain our health and to maintain our well-being. So that's really important to me, because writing's such a sedentary, solitary activity. So I'll stop to go for a run and eat dinner and take care of like whatever I have to, and then I'll go back to writing, and I have to, even though I'm a bit of a night owl, I have to cut myself off around 1 or 1:30, because when I start to get tired, I'm kind of just going through the motions. There's very rarely a spark of something new, and especially when I'm editing, I have to cut it off as soon as I get tired, because then I'm just reading, I'm not editing. So that's kind of my routine. And as my little sister can tell you, and unfortunately the rest of my family, I get really, really freaky when all this is going on. I wrote my first book, which is called Sing Moonlight. It's 92,000 words. I wrote it in just over 2 weeks by writing in this method. I'm not trying to write fast. I'm not trying to race. I'm not planning to write books this fast. It's just literally the only way I can do it. And that's in part a handicap. A lot of people go, oh wow, I wish I could write a book that fast, or you must have a million books, or like, there's no problem. It's incredibly exhausting. I haven't met anyone else yet who writes that way. Maybe some of you watching this will chime in that you write like a maniac and like a crazy person as well. But to date, I don't know anyone who does. And like I said, that's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it's just this is how my brain functions and how my creativity finds an outlet. And I think part of that is because I don't outline it. So it's all in here, and it's surging to get out as fast as it can, and I have to get it out as fast as I can because I'll go crazy. When I wrote that first book, Sing Moonlight, in 2.5 weeks, the sensation in my brain was like having a beehive. It's tight. There's a ton of different bees buzzing, and those are all thoughts and synapses connecting, because in that book, I'm sorry, it's not out yet, but in that book, I built a world. I was world building. And it was very difficult. This is creepy to admit. Sorry if I'm scaring you here. It was difficult to function doing everyday tasks. And that scares me because in my mind, I'm cool. I've got it together and I'm okay. But to my loved ones, the people around me, it's an endless source of amusement because it's like I'm only half functioning. Which again, this is creepy. But it's like I'm only half functioning. And I've really, really, really tried to work on that because how am I ever going to survive in life if while I'm writing I'm only half there at best? And so, about a month or two ago, I wrote a script. It took me I think it took me a week. And in that week, I thought that I was doing so good. I was talking to people. I was eating. I think I was even answering texts and emails. I was probably still posting on my author page and stuff. And I was like, I did really good, didn't I? And my sister's like, yeah, you did good. I'm like, what? What did I do? And, luckily I have a family that can make light of this and teases me, but my sister loves to talk about when I was writing my first couple books, how I was like eating a burrito just like... And she'd ask me a question, I'd be like, yeah, yeah. It's kind of like, when you're falling asleep and you're having a conversation with someone and you're like, I'm answering, or when you're drunk and you're like, I've got my shit together. They're never gonna know. It's like that. So I don't know what that says about me. Someone's probably gonna diagnose me with like a mental illness in the comments, but that's just how I function. And again, I didn't choose to be this way. I'm not trying to be this way. It's just the only way that I exist as a writer. So, because of that, when I do write, I have to make sure that I'm going to have like a month to be safe of uninterrupted time where I don't have to go to a convention or I don't have to have like a lot of demands on my time. It is good for me to be forced into breaks. I hate them though. Oh, I hate them. But luckily, it is good for my sanity, and my close friends have started to realize that, and they'll drag the troll out of its cave when I'm writing and be like, you're coming, you're holding my baby, and we're eating food, and like we're doing something, and then it kind of snaps me more into human mode. Otherwise, I'm just off with my characters in whatever time period they're in, whatever world they're in. So that is my writing process. And I've probably scared a lot of you away by now. But maybe there's some of you who write the same way and now you feel less weird, or maybe you just think I'm even weirder. I don't know. But I've really enjoyed doing these vlogs, and please feel free to keep the questions coming, the suggestions for content coming. It's weird to talk to a lens, but at the same time, I know eventually it's not just going to be an aperture, it's going to be an audience. And if I can help even just one person, then that makes it completely worthwhile. So I hope that this in some way has helped you, if not just to clarify what you're seeing on the page when you read one of my books. For example, Darkling, people often comment on the almost stream of consciousness style of Darkling because it's a first-person narrative. I wrote that in a period of 20 days, and I only wrote on 15 of those days. I don't keep track of this stuff because I'm trying to be like, oh, well, I can write a book in this short time. Who knows, it could be crap. I only know that stuff because at the end of every day I email the document to me because I had a horrible incident where I lost a big portion of a book once by it accidentally getting deleted. So if you email it to yourself, you have it saved somewhere. So that way I could see, oh, okay, yeah, that's right, that was my mom's birthday, so I didn't write on that day, or, you know. And that's how I kind of keep track, but I'm not intentionally trying to keep track. But yeah, there you have it. Even freakier than you thought. You know, your eyes won't really go, like, they won't really get stuck. Like, if you do that a lot, they're not really going to get stuck like that. Whoever told you that is a liar. Or doesn't know anatomy or something. I don't know. So that's pretty much it on my writing process. If you have more questions about it, feel free to leave them as comments and I'll try to address it in another vlog. And as far as news goes, I do have a little bit of news. I've just started a Patreon account. So if you're enjoying these vlogs, if you want to support this type of lunacy, then please do consider donating. I've got a couple of rewards up now and I'm working on more and more so that you'll have a lot of different options available to you. And I appreciate it so much, anyone who's willing to give not only their time, but to give financially to try to help me on this crazy path of being an independent author. I really do appreciate it. So it seems that to make up for last vlog being pretty ridiculous and silly, this one's been overly serious and scholarly and, you know, didactic. And on that note, I'm going to sign off with a Pegasus and a little hedgehog who's crying and covering his eyes because he's afraid of heights and doesn't really want to be flying on the Pegasus. No, no. Yeah, haha, I'm evil. No. Until next time, me and the Pegasus and the depressed hedgehog are signing out. No! Ah! No, he's falling! Ah! Do I have anything else to say? Severus Snape. Lumos.